Welcome to Step 6. Step 6 to a healthy and extraordinary marriage is the ability to develop endurance.
Endurance is the ability of an organism to exert itself and remain active for a long period of time, as well as its ability to resist, withstand, recover from, and have immunity to trauma, wounds, or fatigue. So endurance is about the long haul, to the end, like a marathon runner.
Finishing well.
Right.
So, Robin just mentioned marathon. Typically, a marathon is our ideal picture of an endurance event.
Yeah.
It's probably the most common endurance event that we can relate to. And so, when we think of a marathon, we recognize very quickly we're not talking about a quick sprint, all out, done, go get the trophy.
Yeah.
We're talking about a long run, 26.2 miles. Mine was about a little over 5 hours.
Wearing the wrong shirt.
Right? Right? This was
Double
this.
this.
This was the 13.1. 26.2 miles. How do you train for a marathon? We're going to parallel again the training for our relationship and how to have and finish well and complete the journey in our relationship, much like you do in a marathon. So in your training for a marathon, one of the first things we have to remember is our formula. The formula that we've been giving you, ICA plus T equals XO. ICA plus T equals XO. When you do this, the I, intentional, consistent action plus time, you can get to extraordinary results.
Mm-hmm.
But you always start small.
Right. Like, you didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, I think I'll run a marathon today.
Right.
You wake up and say, I want to train for a marathon. But you start with the first step. Right. What are the first steps?
So when you start small, training for a marathon, it might be for you, it might be just getting off the couch. I didn't start with a 15-mile run.
Mm-hmm.
I started with a mile, a couple miles, and then you start small, and you gradually increase your mileage.
Mm-hmm.
You build up slowly over time.
Right.
Or you risk injury.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to get to this point before you've done these things, you risk injury.
Right.
So when you're training for a marathon, you're intentional, you're consistent, and you're active.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I ran the Bosque. I mean, it was like every day I knew what my plan was.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I knew what I was going to do. When I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, every day I knew what I was going to do. I had a plan, I had a strategy, and it was incremental steps that built me up to running a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Gradually increase your mileage over time. But you don't just run.
Right. Because if all you're doing is running, you're isolating just certain muscles.
Right.
But in order to have the strength that you need to actually endure to the end and to finish well, you have to work on other muscles.
Right.
You have to work on your hams and your glutes and your quads.
And your core.
And your core,
critical.
right, and your cardio. I mean, it all works together.
Right. And I think that's what we're trying to communicate in this session right here, as we're kind of bringing some things to a close, is it all works together.
Mm-hmm.
The whole package works together to build endurance over time, so that this thing called marriage
Can finish well.
can finish well.
Yeah.
Can finish well.
Yeah.
Endurance is about the long game. It's about understanding that when I got married, I didn't get married thinking, I'm going to try this for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go out for a sprint or two. This was about, I want to stay married to you forever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this for the long game. Question, are you in your relationship for the long game? Are you committed to the end, or do all you see is the right now? And I think that's part of the problem. When people look at their relationship, sometimes all they see is right now.
Mm-hmm.
They see the current struggle, they see the current problem, they see the current conflict.
Or the past problem and conflict
yeah.
and struggle.
Everything that brought up to right now.
And get stuck back there,
Right.
like we've talked about. Yeah.
Right.
If your focus is in the past, you get stuck there.
Yeah.
You have to be able to switch that focus forward.
And so when that's all they see is that, and they don't see the long game, they're not looking at the dream, they're not looking down here, they're not, man, when I was going to London for the London Marathon, I had that picture in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there yet. We hadn't been to London.
Right.
But I could see, I'd already pictured, I'd already mapped out, I already had visions of London.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have just pictures of London, the place. I had pictures of crossing the finish line in London at this historic place. That's what I had in my head. I wasn't looking at the immediate challenge in my training. I was looking at the dream
Right.
down the road.
Right.
Good relational endurance is critical to an extraordinary marriage.
Here's some quotes on endurance. William Barclay said, "Endurance is not just the ability to bear a hardship, but to turn it into glory."
I love that because there was something about that finish line in London. There's something about the sign on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro that it's like, can you look at where we're at?
Yeah.
There was this glory, there was this incredible experience,
Accomplishment. Achievement. Yeah.
that came out of endurance.
Yeah. Yeah. Endurance is patience concentrated. Let me say that again. Endurance is patience concentrated. Thomas Carlyle said that.
Another, I just love the thought of that. It's delayed. It's patient. I'm gonna get there. We're gonna cross that finish line. We're gonna do it. I ran the London Marathon with one of my best friends, Johnny Huddle. We ran step by step for 5 hours, and we crossed the finish line. And I'm all emotional. We crossed the finish line together.
Yeah.
But there was this patience. I couldn't wake up and just get there.
It was your first marathon, but it wasn't his first. But he made the commitment to run side by side with you in partnership, much like a marriage.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Johnny. But we didn't wake up and just, some of us are so impatient.
Yeah.
We want this down here, but we haven't put in the time here. We haven't invested in the relationship here, but we want the outcomes of it here.
Right.
We want great communication, for example, but we haven't taken the time to build and strengthen our communication, but we certainly want the outcomes of great communication, and we want it now. Endurance is patience concentrated. I just think that is a great quote. And here we are on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, and that's Johnny Huddle, kind of hunched over there with mountain sickness.
But he made it.
And
not alone, though.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
We made it together. And there was incredible meaning. Uruhu Peak, the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Uruhu is freedom. And we climbed for kiddos to have freedom, to have water.
Right.
There is incredible meaning. And we can endure virtually any struggle if we know it has meaning.
Right. That comes from Viktor Frankl, who survived Auschwitz concentration camp during World War II. Incredible story.
Yeah.
I just finished listening to his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Incredible. And it really is true that we can endure just about anything if we know that it has meaning, that there's a purpose in it. When it has no purpose, has no meaning, there's no strength in that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that meaning gives us the strength to endure.
Yeah. So obvious parallel to our relationship. When there's meaning and you're going through it because you want a thriving, extraordinary relationship, that's got meaning attached to it. Why are you going through this? Why are you enduring? Why are you doing the work? Because you want the outcome.
Yeah.
And there's incredible meaning and purpose in a thriving marriage. Think of all the ripple effects of our relationship and how it impacts our next generation. And when we have a dynamic, extraordinary relationship, every decision we make impacts somebody. Our health decisions impact somebody. There's other people attached to our life, and there's people we don't even know who are attached to the decisions we make today. And the impact our decisions today will have on them later.
Yep.
When there's meaning in that, and there's purpose in that, and I can see beyond my immediate, and I can see beyond myself, I can endure. And there's struggle and there's hardship. But now out of those I'll grow.
Right.
I think this quote is absolutely incredible. We can endure virtually any struggle when we know it has meaning.
And the famous Daryl McLaren said, the true test of endurance is not the physical test, but the mental.
Yeah.
You've been through that a few times.
So I really am a firm believer that everything great starts in the mind. The marathon is not won because of all your physical training. The marathon is won because of your mental training during the physical training. The mountain is not scaled and achieved and conquered because of your physical training. We didn't get up Mount Kilimanjaro. I've been up it twice, and we did not get up it and to the summit of it without a mental struggle. And there was times, I know coming down off the summit, first time I climbed Kili, second time was even harder. Coming down the scree field, I had a fever, I was exhausted, I was wiped out, I had 5 hours to go, and I wanted to sit down on the side and crumble. There was a mental battle going on. And we did not get to the top, and we did not get back to base camp without overcoming the mental. And I think that is so missed in our relational endurance. We're not looking at the mental challenge. So the question is, when you're developing endurance, what are you doing to train the mind? That's why we started this entire course with mindset. What are you doing to develop and strengthen the mind to be able to overcome the challenges and the tests that you will find and face in your relationship? The true test of endurance is not a physical test. It's a mental test. So your relational endurance. Let's transition this now, because I think we understand physical endurance, and you overcome challenges and you overcome struggles. How many of you know that you will face challenges? You will face struggles. You will face a differing degree of difficulty in your relationship. Your relational endurance commits to the long game.
Commitment is so important.
Yeah.
I think it all starts with that. That's part of your mental game, really, is making that commitment.
Yeah. And it's making that commitment with the end in mind. Again, it's just like I saw London. The question is, are you seeing the kind of relationship you want?
Yeah.
Are you envisioning? Are you committed to the long game with this person, or is there still that, well, if it gets tough, I'll get out? No, I'm committed to you for the long game. We're in this together for the long game. I don't want an ordinary ho-hum marriage. I'm in it for the long game.
Your relational endurance recognizes and embraces the struggle. Just knowing that you will struggle, knowing that you will face challenges is a big part of it. I think if you go in blindly and just think, oh, this is just going to be great, it'd be kind of like going in to run a marathon thinking, oh, I've got this. This will be so easy. Piece of cake. It'll just be a breeze.
Then when it gets hard, you're like, what the
What?
heck just happened?
What?
Wasn't anticipating that.
Right. And if you're not anticipating it, it hits you much harder.
Yeah.
When you do come to, what was it, mile 20?
Mile 20.
When you
Mile 20.
when you wanted to throw in the towel and quit,
Yeah.
but you also wanted to finish that race.
Right.
So that desire to finish helped keep you going, but you knew that it wasn't going to be
I knew
easy.
a mile 20 was coming.
Right.
I knew that there was going to be a struggle. I had already experienced smaller incremental growing struggles to where when mile 20 happened, I already knew what to do with it. Mm-hmm. I already knew how to work through that. And I needed Johnny by my side. And that's sometimes the thing that we miss is in the struggle, have we put in place the things we know that are going to get us through the struggles to come? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I knew that I was going to have those struggles, and I knew that I was going to need certain kinds of fueling as I'm running. Mm-hmm. And I had a buddy who had been down the road before. I knew that my chances of successfully completing the marathon increased substantially by having him by my side. Because I knew the struggle was real and it was coming, and I was going to need to draw upon his strength. I was going to need to draw upon his experience. Mm-hmm. Question: who are you putting in your life relationally that's going to help you in your struggles? I think we have the fairy tale mentality. Happily ever after. We got married. There's not going to be a struggle. We love each other. There's no struggle in love.
All we need is love.
Yeah, and yet there is a struggle. Uh-huh. And you guys who are on this course, you already know because you're here. There's a struggle, and the struggle is real.
Yeah.
And you're doing some things intentionally right now to put things in your marriage to help you endure. I want to commend you on being a part of this and this course and enduring even to this point in the course. Mm-hmm. And the challenges. Who are you putting in that's going to help you in your struggle? The more you recognize and embrace the struggle, the easier the struggles are to overcome and get through.
Right. And it all starts in the mind, like we've talked about. Every great relationship starts in the mind. Every horrible relationship starts in the mind. Everything starts in the mind.
What are you doing with your thoughts? We would do well to think about what we think about. Mm-hmm. And endurance finds joy in the journey. There's joy in the journey. I got to tell you, running the London Marathon and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, every single endurance event I've ever done, there's been an incredible joy in the journey and in the process of getting to the finish line. Mm-hmm. Struggle's real. How is it that we can have so much struggle? And you know, I'll never forget. You were in Phoenix and I was here, and you came to visit, and I was training, and it was a Saturday morning, and I was starting to do my long runs. And on Saturdays I'd do a long run, and we went to breakfast after my run.
Oh yeah.
I'll never forget. I did my run that morning, and I think it was like 10, 12 miles, something like that.
Yeah.
And I finished my run, and I get in the truck, and I'm like, oh man, it's the longest run I've ever done. And it was like 10 or 12 miles. I can't remember exactly. Let's go eat breakfast. And we get over to the restaurant. I could hardly get out of the truck.
He needed assistance.
I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, but there wasn't a part of me that said, I think I'm going to quit.
Right.
I was in pain.
Yeah. But you just knew that was part of the process.
Yeah.
It was part of your training in order to be able to accomplish that.
And for those of you who've lifted weights or run or have done physical fitness stuff, there's something about certain types of pain that you're going, yeah, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
You are nuts. Yeah. You like walking to the restaurant like this, and you get to this place and you're like, okay, I think I'll sit down.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like we talked about leg day. You know, while you're doing it, it feels good. The next day, it feels horrible.
But your mind is.
But you know that you did something. You know that you're on the way to being stronger.
Right.
That helps a lot.
Yeah. And so there's a joy in the journey, even in the midst of the struggle, because you
Right.
see where you're going. That's the thing. You see where you're going. And you know that if you go through the struggle, you know that if you endure through the pain, or you work on the conflict resolution, and you guys just kind of go through it, and you come out that pain or that struggle better.
Right. You know that there's the other side of that,
Yeah.
because you've experienced it in life.
Yeah.
You've experienced it already in your relationship. When you do go through the struggle together, on the same page, on the same team, you go through the struggle, you know that there's victory and glory on the other side.
Right. Endurance
Yeah.
turns the struggle into glory. Yeah. And really, isn't that where we're all headed? Don't we all want a thriving
Yes.
marriage?
Yes.
Not just a surviving marriage.
Right.
We don't want to just endure.
Right. I don't want to come to the end of life and say, okay, we were married for 55 years or however
yucky
many. Yeah.
years.
I want to be like, wow, look how long we've been married. Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah. I want a thriving marriage. I don't want to just, quote unquote, endure. Just get through it.
Yeah.
I want
Survive.
the trophy.
Yeah.
I want the medal around the neck. I want and for me, the medal is when we're smiling together, when we're laughing together, when we're 80, 90, 120 years old.
No thanks.
Okay, when we're 80, 90 years old, and we're laughing together, and we're having fun together, and we have joy in our relationship, and we're thinking back over the struggles and remember wins. You know, those times when you're going, man, have you ever experienced the camping trip from HE double hockey sticks? The camping trip where it seemed like everything went wrong. What trip do you always talk about? It's the memory of that trip. If everything went great, I mean, we talk about this in air travel. It's like, you know, you don't talk about all the airplane rides that just were smooth sailing. It's just like, yeah, that was just normal.
Yeah.
You talk about the ones where there was an experience. And typically that experience is in turbulence.
Right.
Right? It's like, and then the
we
plane.
survived.
But you talk about it for years.
Yeah.
Right? Because you survived.
Yeah.
And it's that camping trip where you forgot the toilet paper and you had to use that leaf, and it's like, are you kidding me? It's like that sucked at the time. But now we're laughing about it, we're talking about it.
It's a bonding experience. The struggle, the challenge can create a bond.
Right.
Like no other.
Right.
Yeah.
What are your memories? Your relational endurance commits to the long game, recognizes and embraces the struggle, starts in the mind, finds joy in the journey, and is all about thriving, not just surviving.
Right.
So your action step.
Intentionally and consistently practice all that has come before in this course. You get to the endurance place by putting into practice all the things that we've talked about leading up to this.
Right. So we started with mindset. So Module 1 was all about every great relationship starts in the mind. Right. If you will start implementing that right now and really take your thoughts captive and really understand the power that you have in your relationship that's all in your mindset and how you approach your relationship from a mental perspective, you are well on your way to enduring through the hard stuff and into an extraordinary relationship. So we started with mindset.
Right. Then once you have your mindset right, you make a decision that you're in.
All in.
You're committed.
Gonna run that run.
This is what we're doing, and we're going to do this to the best of our ability. You make that decision, and you don't waver. You don't change. You don't go back. You may have to keep making that decision as you go forward, as you move forward.
Because the struggle's
as you
real.
hit the next challenge, you have to make that decision again, that you're all in, that you're still all in.
Yeah, there were many times training for Achille that it got tough, and I had to say, nope, I have committed to those kids and their future that I am going to provide water and fight against human trafficking. I'm all in. I'm doing this. Why? And I had to make those decisions as we went. I made the decision. I was all in.
Right.
But then there were those struggles that caused me to sometimes even question, do I really, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Nope. I am all in. I said I was all in. I made a decision.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Right.
You start with your mindset, you make a decision, but then you dream. I think one of the coolest parts of this whole course is the dream. Where do you want to go? Where do you see our future? Dreaming together and dreaming in color and really implementing and taking intentional, consistent action in that dream. And when you map out that dream and you dream that dream together, you can start taking intentional, consistent action towards that dream, and you're well on your way to extraordinary. I had a dream of climbing Kili. I had a dream of running the London Marathon.
Right.
That dream was real,
Yeah.
and it was alive, and we kept it alive.
Right. And a big part of that was actually being able to see it in your mind. You even, you did some research on London to see what it looked like, to see what the path was going to be. You knew what the map was for the run. You knew these really cool, famous
10 landmarks.
Famous landmarks that you were going to be going past, including the Buckingham Palace, many very cool things that you could then see in your mind. That's part of the dreaming in color is for your relationship is really seeing what that's going to look like down the road into your future.
Yeah. So your mindset, your decision, then your dream. And then we taught you to focus forward. Look out that front windshield. Focus on that dream. See where you're going. Keep it alive. The more time you spend looking in your rearview mirror at the struggles and the problems and the things and if that's where you're focused, remember where your focus goes, your energy flows.
Right. You don't want to get stuck there. You will get stuck there. If that's your view, if that's your mindset is in the past, that's where you'll find yourself.
Right. And then be your best self. Taking personal responsibility.
Right.
Looking in the mirror, taking personal responsibility for your own behaviors and actions in your relationship, and becoming your best self in your self-care.
Right. Because in order to continue to be your best self, you have to take care of yourself. You can't, it's not a temporary thing. Being your best self is also about endurance.
Right.
It's about being my best self. It's an action verb, right? It's I don't know what's the Greek thing, it's like it keeps going. It keeps going on and on. It's not just a one-time thing. So you want to be is short a form of becoming. You are always in a becoming your best self mode, then it's an ongoing process.
Well, and in endurance and in training, in all of our exercise stuff that we talk about, there's always a recovery day. A recovery day is a self-care day. A recovery day is taking, if I did leg day every single day, it's going to be defeating.
Right.
It's going to actually have a reverse effect. It's not going to be what I'm trying to get out of it.
It won't be helpful. You'll injure yourself.
Right. So there comes a recovery day, and the muscles repair themselves, and they build and strengthen, and then you do the exercise again, and they recover and build. It's self-care.
Right.
It's a down day. So mindset, make a decision, dream the dream, focus forward, be your best self, and then build a healthy relationship. And in building a healthy relationship, this is engaging all the other muscles that we talked about over the last modules 6 and 7.
Right.
So it's about strengthen your cardio, strengthen your core, strengthen all the other muscles, because all of it works together. If you haven't caught that yet, it all works together to be able to endure for the long haul and not just have a surviving marriage, but have a thriving marriage.
Right.
All the other stuff is part of that journey.
Right. So your action step is to intentionally spend time investing in your relationship.
So what we want to encourage you to do is to not just have gone through the modules, but to be intentional, to be consistent, and to take action in your relationship, so that you won't just be able to go through the struggles, but that you'll be able to thrive and really have a marriage that is extraordinary.
Right.
Think about it. When you think about the marriages that we work with and the marriages that we see in our culture, how many of them would you say are thriving and extraordinary? Not very many.
Yeah, not very many.
Not very many. Don't be ordinary.
Yeah.
The Bible says be transformed. It says no longer be conformed to the patterns of this world. What's the pattern of this world? Ordinary, drudgery, hate my marriage. That you hear all the time.
Struggle, struggle, struggle.
That's the ordinary.
Yeah.
I don't want to be ordinary.
Yeah.
No longer be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Where does it start? Right there.
It's all in the mind.
It's all in the mind. It starts in the mind. We've got to deal with the mind. So your action step, because we're calling you to action, is to intentionally spend time, now listen, investing in your relationship. Investing in your relationship. Step 7 to a healthy, extraordinary marriage is that investment. It's an investment. It's a way you can invest. I want to pause for a minute, because if you're taking this course, you've already started investing.
Right.
And I want to commend you. And you are incredible, because you are in a very small percentage of Americans who have gone to this level. We're going to talk about that in the next module, or in the next session in this module. You're in a small percentage who've actually spent time investing in their relationship.
Right.
But investment is not a one and done. I want to encourage you, don't let it stop here. Maybe hire a personal trainer. We're going to talk about that in the next video.